Nearly September. Kent wheeled. Kent wheeled. Kent wheeled. I met him in Intro to Excel spreadsheets. We were assigned together. Group project. 3 of us. I don't really remember the other guy. I think he was from Wisconsin because he wore a graphic t-shirt emblazoned with the punchline, "Milwaukee, the weak are killed and eaten," every 3 days. Unlike Kent, he was not gorgeous. Kent was a conduit of a Tian estate. He was 6'1", the thinking man's 6'3", mandorled by diarrhea blonde hair, possessed by joints more lithely parabolic than marrowly geometric. When he first arced into class, I immediately succumbed to the pendulous aureole of his vibe. It was like humidity or nitrous poisoning. Pricks at the ends of my digits, lips, and gooch. This Zandy was obviously totally ignorant to the reality that motion isn't simple. I loved how arrested I was by his not totally willful unknowing. It was the second week of class. He transferred in. He was so sexy for that. So early in the term, and we were already doing group work. The professor was clearly going through divorce, marriage, and average hair follicle count. I professed to myself, right there, furtively, that Kent and I wouldn't be like that, detached and or thinned. "What's kicks?" Kent's introduction to me. He was so fucking stupid. Immediate arrows. "You couldn't resist the call of data, huh?" I thought that would be a bit more cordial than asking why you would voluntarily switch into a faux stats course as dreadful as what surrounded us. "Yeah, I was in an intro to Hobbes type beat class, but I decided that I would need these sheet skills to better articulate my own theories, but with something more real like integers. Also, my dad said philosophy will make me talk like, one of them. I think he's kind of a dickhead, but I'll probably be working at his dealership this summer, so I can't really not obey." He didn't elaborate on one of them. The median familial income of this college was like $200K a year, so I imagine he meant people with gay voice or vaguely European voice. He was beautiful and very obviously not a sans-culotte. The other guy, the opaque goofball, interrupted. "Yo, my dad also owns a dealership." Right in October. Kent moved through gravity with the uprightness of an ex-boy who had never experienced anything worse than slightly grating. In practice, this meant he traveled by electric scooter, typically weaving right in the middles of sidewalks and roads and bike trails. Most locals would find this method of movement to be basically evil, but the suburbanity which pervaded our institution instead conditioned the student body to consider his obstructiveness an entrepreneurial virtue. The campus ways were always marked by chains of biblically accurate leerings, enviously impressed pupils following his lad maneuvers. In the 3 weeks since my first incisive encounter, we had become underclass peers. Not genuine friends yet, but about the closest a 19-year-old could get in settings that operated according to the temporal strictures of icebreakers and urea gold malt liquor. We would lap at coffees on Friday afternoons. Rather, I would suckle coffee, he would down a Red Bull and about 10 vanilla biscotti. He scootered, I walked. We'd complete our inane personal reflection assignments. I'd listen to the Dada Morse code of his typing. I'd sneak a look at his glabella wrinkle as he used chatty PP to generate responses to his advisor's emails. Sometimes the tips of our Doc Martens would touch. During one of our early semi-scholastic Control-V sessions, Kent admitted he was a 20-year-old freshman. He reveled in a gap year after graduating from some super-mundle private high school in some tri-state area. He mentioned either Delaware or the Delaware River. "It was so mint, haha. I was basically a gopher for app devs that posted up in Dublin, haha, because the whole no-tax shit. My dad and the dad of my boss played basketball together at the U of Pitt. Yeah, haha, we do like 2.5-hour pub lunch breaks. I drank so much Guinness. Even if I was blindfolded, I could tell if a beer was Guinness, haha." He spoke like the aftermath of a nasal irrigator. All green boy gush. I loved him because of dramatic irony. He didn't know I was an audience. I knew he didn't know he was an idiot. Why did he have to be astute? Maybe 15 students on campus had any facility. He was belligerently affable. When our spreadsheeter TAs futilely referenced Obama-era sketch comedy shows that people barely gave a fuck about even then, he would alms give them a genuinely well-meated chortle. He was charity in chinos. "What are you doing in a month?" My initial thought: following you around like someone who plausibly could have ended up as a serial killer but never had a significant brain injury as a child. My second thought: a month? I'd say psychically preparing myself for another unshunnable Rochester Thanksgiving. "Oh, toit. Honestly, upstate New York gets hate, but low-key, I kind of fuck with it." "Well, no. Rochester, Minnesota. The city of care and innovation." The peak upon his batter-hued cheeks intimated that he may have not been privy to the existence of the land of 10,000 lakes. A slight blip, but his embouchure confidently recoiled back into its standard, sightly grin. "If you're with it, the marketing students out of Laudermilch Hall are throwing a fundraiser rager just a little bit off campus. November 15th, Friday. It's apparently National Philanthropy Day." "Riverside North?" No. River Edge West." "Oh, so it's going to be especially buck-anal." I pronounced it as buck-anal just to see if Kent would notice and correct me. He did not. Awooga. "Hell yeah. One of the Alpha Laudermilcher's dad is pretty high up at like Wells Fargo or Bear Stearns or something. Daddy loan books. I think they use their dorm as a gaming den and or a space for their Peloton. They definitely live at a Rizzo 2,000 square footer on River Edge, by the park with all the lactating angel fountains. I will slide through, but only if you won't immediately abandon me to people that want to talk about how AI porn generator stocks are actually solid investments." Okay. I'll deflect them for like 45 minutes? Kent tautly smiled as if he was the first 20-some to fathom up open mic stand-up tier quippage. I'm in no position to reject a compromise. October, late and ghoulish. In a cubicle, in the basement of the law library, I attempted to close read an assignment. There were maybe 6 of us in the pits. Law students rarely go downward. I feebly stared at my intro to psych reading about all the different types of pill shapes. I wasn't looking at the words, I was looking at the font. No, I wasn't looking at the font, I was looking at the curves of the letters. I was quasi-dreaming in between Garamond jags. In my noon phasm, I envisioned Kent's thumbs and pointers morph into the convexes of E's and N's, only to then suddenly transmute into living gua sha scrapers. I felt the sturdy curl of his digits mercilessly rack my levator scapulae. This wasn't a horny fantasy, or it barely was. I really did have scholar neck. I really did want some capillaries to burst. I wanted him to know my growing kyphosis, but there were hurdles. For the past 2 weeks, Kent and I only had opportunities to chat during our spreadsheet class. This wasn't symptomatic of some petty late-teen faulting or anything jejunely asinine like that. While we were hitting the time of year underclass persons realized the friends they made at gangrenously sweaty August mixers were actually grotesque chuds, we were actually just appropriately busy consorters. Kent's brothel intrepidity had landed him treasurer of the campus extreme society. I was working 12 hours a week as a dining hall janitor to pay off a work-study loan and trying to finagle a radio show by volunteering myself to down another down into the station's basement storage arachnid graveyard. I invested a lot of my pupils into recording all the unregarded and unrespected ancient vinyl procured by past generations of Styrian co-eds. Of course I missed being regularly proximate to the benign heat of his pancake mix-hued flesh, but also absence makes the heart get litter. If kayaking down polluted Midwestern waterways of swine feces and gizzard shad corpses made him happy, then I was content too. A sudden outburst. A faux goth boy scrambled to shove their headphones back into their MacBook. The jack liberating dangle word like an athame. A mangled ulna. And then the letters were normal. National Philanthropy Day. Bass drum tuned to D sharp, 138 BPM, mauve 4x4 to the pink floor. I'm either at a college party or trapped in a by TikTok otherworld.
Do you know what? What's who?
Immersed in truculent volume. No decoding of speech here. One of Kent's bucolic, hike-habituated familiars he dubbed friend attempted to chat. He had no name to me, and I had no desire to discern if he was tedious or not.
What's his friend? This is his friend.
He looked like Weekly World's Bat Boy, but with a vile, Herrenvolkish haircut.
Okay, yeah. This place is really nice here. Yeah,
The music niled us, consequently rousing the toothed lobes of my brain. Fuck this dumb guy and his dumb head. He wasn't Kent. Out of the purpliness, I saw him strobe into our blue rasp sticky corner. The man with the Frisian marauder jaw. Kent, oh Kent, oh Kent. The bass wall, however, millstoned my excitement. His typically staunch grin smirked itself with Ethel and woe.
yeah. What is
His eyes looked like grapes, just hankering to rot, but also under an industrial hydraulic press. His mouth maud, outgushed more green.
This is really photo. Like, I tell you, like, the Frisian class is easy, but everything else has been disastrous. My sex core has been absolutely me, and I just don't get how to find numb like that. And honestly, my dad is threatening me with cutting off finding at least a 3.4 this time. And like, also, I'm so pent up, but somehow important. I was hooking up with last night, and I just couldn't perform. You know what I mean? It's like everything is mommy moo. It's like everything is just bugging off.
He trailed off, or I did. His voice, D4 tones, passing notes. Below us, the D sharps, clamor, pathetic. I felt my bowels pratfall. A totally unrecognizable meld of dyscrasia, an abject love and a reverent ick collapsing into each other. We're so over, we're so back, coterminous. Early December. I wasn't neurotically avoiding Kent. I hadn't seen him in like 15 days. He wasn't going to class. I probably wouldn't have ignored him if he went to lecture, but I admit that I wasn't keen on stumbling into him on sidewalks between, the Center for Very Insightful Critical Analysis and the Make Drones More Fast lab. His Philanthropy Day contra-romantic outpouring was just so miserable. I found him pitiful and luscious, and that two-ness had given me an ambitious heartburn. Weeks now. 3 weeks of bile. I resolved to de-acid and de-Kent myself. I exited Intro to Spreadsheets. I popped a calc carbonate. I walked to my dorm. It was raining pretty hard. Historically abnormal for this latitude, but probably the coldest it was going to be on average from now on, considering what carbon does when it's in the sky. Through the dropletting, I could hear a burr swell, an unpedestrian thrum arouse, a jump scare. Kent erratically quivered through the downfall. To my left, without saying, on your left. He was definitely exceeding 15 miles per hour, and he certainly did not recognize the back of my head. My health goth raincoat did anonymize me, sure, but I doubt he had memorized the RGB of my hair. And he scootered off, accelerating around loamy, clee puddles, straight onto Yaxley Boulevard. In that moment, he didn't entertain courtesy. He didn't press the crosswalk button. He didn't stop. The pickup truck stopped, but after about 4/5 of a second, the 03 150 lurched right into the personed half of the scooter. Kent careened. Really, he Kent-reened. Over the hood, hitting the windshield like a katydid in a puffy fleece jacket, and falling backward beside the driver's engorged front wheel. Kent's not unfamiliarly flaccid frame descended to the cement of Yaxley. His body blanched and stilled underneath the assailant's truck door decal. A Confederate flag with sleepyjoestole.org impact fonted over it. I realized that I didn't remember if there was ever a moment in my first 19 years that could have been something other than this. Late January. I felt the hurdle of her before I saw her out past me. Bridget wheeled. Bridget wheeled. Bridget wheeled.